This is the Airaid Modular Intake Tube for the 2015 and newer EcoBoost Mustang. This intake tube works with the factory air box, and it's going to look a lot better under the hood than the factory intake tube does. The factory inlet tube is small and weirdly shaped, so this one will look cleaner and have no sound deadening baffles on the inside. This intake tube gives you a way to get a little bit more air to your EcoBoost without having to buy a cold air intake. The install for this is easy. It's a 1 out of 3 wrenches in the difficulty meter, and you can plan on spending a half an hour getting this on the car. Currently, Airaid is the only company out there that's offering just an intake tube by itself for the EcoBoost. The only other way that you can get a new intake tube is if you purchase a cold air intake and maybe just install the intake tube and leave the rest of the cold air kit to the side, but that's going to be a waste of money. Depending on what cold air kit you go with, you're going to be spending upwards of $300, which is double the price of this tube by itself. So Airaid is giving a way to clean up your underhood appearance, open up some sound, and flow a little bit more air to the EcoBoost without having to purchase an entire new cold air intake setup, and all while keeping your stock air box. I know there are a lot of people out there that are fans of the stock air box, and we've seen here that the stock air box does perform on these cars. And just like a cold air intake for the EcoBoost, this does not require a tune. It's a direct fit replacement, and you don't have to modify anything to get this on your car. You'll get the intake tube, new couplers, and new hose clamps too, so this is going to be ready to go right out of the box. As far as price, you can expect to spend just over $150 for this. Currently, this is the only intake tube that you can purchase on its own. If you wanted another brand, you need to purchase a cold air intake kit, which is going to come with a new filter housing setup and a new filter. This is going to be your only option if you wanted to keep your stock air box and change out the intake tube without having to buy a complete cold air intake. When it comes to the install, you're looking at a 1 out of 3 wrenches in the difficulty meter. You can plan on spending a half an hour, maybe an hour to get this on the car. You're just looking at swapping out your inlet tube and nothing more. You need a basic socket set and that's it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen our clamps so we can get our intake tube off. There are only 2 clamps, so we have a couple disconnections to make, and then that's really all it's going to take. So the first clamp I'm going to loosen is right here at the air box. You don't have to remove it all the way, you just have to make it loose enough so that you can slide this tube off. And then the next clamp is going to be down there right by our turbo. So this is a little bit of a tight squeeze. I added another extension onto my ratchet setup here just so that I can reach this. Next, we're going to disconnect our PCV and our turbo bypass lines. And then we're going to wiggle the tube because it should be free at that point. So now that everything's loose, we can just pull this tube out. So next we have to prepare the Airaid intake tube, and what we're going to do is we're going to insert this grommet and the aluminum fitting into the tube. So we'll put the grommet in first. Basically, you can see how there's a line in the middle. I'm just trying to get that through the tube so the grommet sits on either side of the tube. And I'm going to take the aluminum fitting and insert that. So now our aluminum fitting is inside the grommet in the intake tube. Next, we're going to slide our reducer and our clamps onto the turbo side of the intake. I'm going to leave the clamps loose for now, but I'm going to tighten this one down just enough so that it stays on. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And now we're all ready to get this put in the car. So now we're just going to slide this back into place. You guys can start with whatever end works easier for you. I'm just going to try to get this in there and see how it works out. Alright, so this is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but basically I'm just going to be trying to get this coupler over our turbo inlet here. Now
now that I have the coupler over the turbo inlet, I'm just going to tighten the clamp down. And while we're at this end of the tube, we're going to plug in our turbo bypass line and our PCV. So we have one more clamp to tighten up here, and then of course we got to get our Airaid sticker on the inlet tube.
That's going to wrap things up for the Airaid Modular Intake Tube for the 2015 and newer EcoBoost Mustang. You can check it out more online right here at AmericanMuscle.com.